living a full life with the sacraments is something that we sometimes forget what that means or why it's important to us. Living a life with the sacraments doesn't take us away from things. You know, so many times we think of a sacrament as a benchmark. Okay, I made my first Holy Communion, now I'm going to get confirmed. I've gotten confirmed. Next thing, I'm going to get married or move on in some other part of my life. We see them as benchmarks, not as what they're really supposed to be. When we look at what a sacrament actually is, it's an efficacious sign of grace, instituted by Christ and entrusted to the Church, in which divine life is dispensed to us. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that in each sacrament, Christ is the one dispensing to us this beautiful grace that we need in the sacraments. And so what we do is we don't necessarily just knock off each of the sacraments as we go through our own education and our own upbringing, but what we do is we gather and make use of all of these sacraments in our own lives. You know, today so many times we hear that phrase that, you know, I can do this on my own. I've got it. It's all on me. You know, I'm going to do this. I have the freedom. I'm going to do this. All of these words that start with I. And then what we notice is that we get super stressed out because the weight of the world is on our shoulders, and there are things that are outside of our control that we want to control, but we can't. And this is where living a life with the sacraments comes into play. Because in those moments that we can't control something, in the moments that we need extra help, in those moments that we don't see a way out of whatever the situation may be, life with the sacraments helps us to achieve what exactly it is that we're looking for, which ultimately, as St. Augustine will tell us, is union with God. Our hearts are restless until they rest in you, O God. And so each of these sacraments, as we'll go through this series and see, presents us with a beautiful way in which we ourselves connect, and not only connect, but experience the divine life the way that God intended it to be just for that brief moment in that sacramental grace. But we have to ask for it. We have to ask for this sacramental grace. We have to recognize that this sacramental grace has the ability to radically alter our lives, not in a bad way, but brings all of the pieces of our life together and center us around God. The 7 sacraments of the Church are here for us so that we can build and be the holiest, strongest, and most advantageous person that we can be in this world. But we need God to be a part of that. And that's why Pope Francis said that we are not self-sufficient, that our faith is recognized when we realize that we can't do it on our own. Christ recognized that. And so therefore in the Church and through the sacraments, we have the means to live out that life in which He's called each of us to be, which is a saint, which is a life of holiness. But it doesn't mean to radically alter our lives, but it means to draw just ever so closely things back to the center, to draw all things to our heart, into our soul, so that God can work within us, so that it's not our words, but it's God's words. It's not our actions, but it's God's actions. That radical transformation is called being a saint and living in union with God. And so we need this in our lives. We need this opportunity each and every day if we can. Why would we keep ourselves from the sacraments when we recognize what their powers really are? They are our superpowers. They give us strength and they give us hope. And so they are the life of the Church. They are the life of the Church. And so for us, we will see over the course of this series each of the sacraments and their intended effect and what they can do in our lives so that we can have a better understanding of what it means to live a life full with the sacraments.